All right, here we go.
Yes. We try and do awkward talk in front of it during the audio. Sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't.
Oh,
I'm
see,
second guessing.
No, stop. Don't second guess yourself. What are you doing?
You have to hit the red button. Ooh. Welcome to the Okayest Cook podcast. This is episode 10. And if you can hear us, you can see us. We are not in my kitchen anymore.
No.
We are on location for our very first guest episode. I'm super pumped. I hope the road noise isn't too obnoxious. But we are also down a member. So I'm not going to do my typical ranking the people with us. So I'm just going to introduce everyone because our guest, I don't think he knows everyone quite yet. So Andy Heiser to my left, and we've got Corey Cole to my right, and the legendary Jason Michael Thomas is diagonal.
Diagonal. It's very kind of you.
Dude, you're a legend to me.
Well, that's kind of you.
Yeah, so today we're kind of going to go all over the place, I'm thinking, but talking farming, gardening, eating local. And Jason is the guy. Mm-hmm. I forget where we met. I think it was a pattern event.
Oh, that makes sense.
And Paulina was like, "You like food? You should talk to Jason."
I was literally thinking about that. I was thinking that it was Paulina that connected us. So,
yeah.
I feel like Paulina connects everyone in the city. She has her hands in everything.
I don't know Paulina, so I feel like I need an introduction at this point.
Yeah,
she's pretty fantastic.
Basically the fashion icon. That's another episode, though.
Sure.
But yeah, Jason, you've got tons of information online, so I'll defer to that for most of the viewers if they want to like really dig into your life. But can you give us like a 30-second highlight of who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'll try. It's probably going to be longer than 30 seconds.
Good.
I'll be as concise as I can. So, I started in the food industry when I was 15 and a half, busboy, and worked my way up to cooking. Don't you love the chopper? So, I told you cityscapes, right? This is an urban farm. So,
my pause and cut out the helicopter.
It's kind of awesome, actually.
it's kind of awesome, yeah, but yes. Busboy.
So, I started in the food industry when I was 15 and a half and worked my way up to grill cook and did a number of things. Started at a country club of all places, and so I kind of got introduced to high-end food early on. And, basically took a huge break from the service industry for a long time. But I was always really passionate about food, loved to cook. All my friends, loved it when I cooked for them. When I moved to Indianapolis in 1998 from Bloomington, I bought the property next door, the blue one, and started growing tomatoes in the backyard. And that just really changed my perception of what food should be.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I started growing more things. I ended up buying this property as an investment. And the amazing thing was that every time I grew another thing, it would redefine that thing.
Nice.
It was kind of this visceral realization every time, like, well, why am I eating this garbage from the grocery store?
Right. Yes.
So have you guys had fresh asparagus?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
And like literally, you eat it raw. You pick it, and you can eat it, and or tomatoes, you pick it ripe the day it's ripe, and you put it in your mouth, and it's mind blowing.
It's different.
It's mind blowing, and I believe that speaks to the healthfulness of the food. I believe that speaks to the nutrient density of the food. I believe that it connects us with nature in a way that we really need to be connected with nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for me, all these things are really essential. They shouldn't be accidentals in our life. And that's something that I think that people overlook. And anyway, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So, I didn't get to the what's evolved. But you guys can feel free to fire away with your questions.
Yeah. Well, obviously we are outside.
Sure.
We are downtown Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And we are on a farm.
Yeah.
I mean, you would classify this as a farm.
It's
right?
an urban farm.
Yeah.
Urban farm,
It is not a big farm by farming standards,
Right.
but it's a decent-sized urban farm.
But for
And
your average plot of garden,
Yeah.
downtown Indy, it's a huge farm.
There aren't bigger lots downtown. I'm virtually certain. I'm trying to think of, we've got 2/3 of an acre here, and that's
Nice.
very rare.
Yeah.
That was part of the beauty of me getting in 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And most of it's green.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Most of it's producing. I mean, you've got elderberries right behind you. You've got how many
Yes.
fruit trees are around us? There's literally fruit on the trees. You just
Yes.
probably might not notice it yet.
We got
Well,
some chickens behind us.
Chickens,
Got
yeah.
Love
random
it.
chickens, but walking the table back here, Jason was like, "Oh, watch out for that thing. Watch out for
Yeah.
this thing. Don't step on the cabbage."
Watch the rhubarb.
So many like awesome things growing in your backyard, and I'm not sure where we want to start here. So probably like maybe like starting a garden. Like how
Sure.
easy is that? You mentioned just starting with a random tomato plant.
Sure. Yeah. I think that people should start with, first of all, something easy. And I think tomatoes are pretty easy. As long as you water them, they should be fine a lot of the time. But everything, I hate to oversimplify that. Nothing is simple.
Right.
And that's the other thing that I wanted to say is it should be something that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
So if you're serious about getting started, be serious about being willing to fail.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So your first trip you should not expect to have. If you do succeed, that's wonderful, but you should not expect to succeed
Right.
when you're starting off gardening. I mean, maybe I had a green thumb, but the tomatoes grew, everything seemed to grow, and
Nice.
but yeah, start with something simple. Plants. I want to recommend to everyone to get perennial food.
Yeah.
Like the asparagus patch.
Yes.
So you plant these root crowns that you can buy at most stores that are selling plants. I can think of a few places right off the top of my head. But the root crowns, in about a year they'll pop up, and then in 2 years they'll be a little stronger, and then the third year, that's probably when I would recommend to start to harvest. And you've got fresh asparagus every year after that. And
Dude, it is game changing.
It is game
If you
changing.
haven't had fresh asparagus from a farmer's market, a place I hunt up in Marion, we had a wild patch we just
Yeah.
discovered.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, somebody threw
There's
a
a
seed
lot
out
of-
or
You've got
what.
some
but-
now, don't you?
I do,
You
yeah.
got
I
some,
planted
yeah.
some in my backyard, but yeah, like Jason said earlier, like you pick it and you eat it. Like you don't have to cook it. It's just like the biggest, like bigger than my thumb
Oh,
asparagus,
they
and
can
just
be
the
huge.
most
Yeah.
tender and
Yeah.
just so awesome.
And yeah, I mean, I make a raw salad with it for my private dinners, and I also cook it very gently in butter. Actually, I don't know if you guys know, I was on TV today, and
No way.
I cooked asparagus and salad turnips, and showed them the beauty of local seasonal produce. So
Awesome.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
talked about all that. So
Yeah, well, so I know on your Instagram you talked about just a little bit. I mean, you talk about everything on the Instagram, and it's beautiful. I love it. So
Thank you.
So Jason Michael Thomas
Mhm.
on Instagram,
that's
right?
the
Just
handle. Mm-hmm.
an infinite, near infinite amount of data on all
right.
these topics. But like you kind of touched on most recently, like the kind of the differences between grocery store and
Sure.
and grown. Do you want to maybe like
Yeah,
touch
no, I
real
think that'd be a
lightly?
great place to start. One of the things that we've talked about this a little bit here and there on the previous podcasts about the difference of buying local and being local and eating local. Just wait. Do this again. The beauties of being downtown.
The alley traffic.
Yeah. So no, the idea of eating local. We talked a little bit about this. I can't, and I don't want to mention numbers because I always get myself in trouble in picking back which episodes we talked about things on. But we're all of us are hunters on the podcast,
Mhm.
so all of us naturally go towards the idea of harvesting our own meat and
Sure.
why, and that beauty of it from a meat product standpoint. But I'm actually the least green thumb of the group. I don't have a single garden attempt at all in my history of doing this, but I love a local farmers market because the produce is so much better. So I'd love to hear a little bit more on why that tends to be, for probably some obvious reasons, but also just the other plus sides of eating in local
vegetables?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I think that eating local food has become a thing that is connected to freedom in a completely connected to freedom is what I should say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I feel that the powers that be are trying to convince us that the natural things that we eat are bad for us.
Mhm.
So, so I could go start with butter versus oils, or tallow, things, animal fats and animal proteins, and I think there's a whole lot of information out there that is encouraging people to eat impossible products, things that are made with ingredients that are commonly found in dog food. And it's all processed, it's all chemically driven agriculture that in my opinion is not good for the planet. So
For us.
yeah,
for us.
absolutely.
the chemically driven agriculture is terrible for the planet, and I would agree, and for the human body. And how bad it is, there's a lot of questions. So, I guess I don't like to think of myself as a big conspiracy theorist, but I think that profit drives a lot of things, and our country is very good at profit.
Yes.
So these huge companies that are trying to sell these products are trying to convince us that they might not be as good for us or as good for the planet. But so for me, the shift is to agriculture that is done in a way that takes care of the planet,
Right.
and that enables nature to do what nature does and doesn't work against nature. So we can try to force nature to do things with lots of chemicals and deplete the soil through those methods, or we can work with nature. And I think if you just look around here,
Right.
we don't use a lot of chemicals, but we get bumper crops of many things. So connecting that to local, people have asked me at my private dinners. They've said, well, this local food is more expensive, and so there's a number of things to talk about when you mention that. One is that the local food is more expensive because it's the true cost of someone doing the work, as opposed to something that's subsidized by
Right.
the American government. So if you're buying a whole chicken from somebody who raises the chicken and feeds them well, feeds them, non-GMO feed and things that aren't treated with tons of chemicals, it just costs more than raising them in a barn with 100,000 other birds.
Right.
Right.
and,
Yep.
and where their air quality stinks and
Right.
where they don't get to see the sun.
Yeah.
And there's so much greenwashing. There's so much propaganda out there that is profit-driven. So there is definitely some dishonesty, and call that a conspiracy theory if you like, but it's well documented. But so why local then? Go around the big picture. Freedom is our ability to be able to choose foods that are better for us. And rural America is being hung out to dry. The small farmers are having a really hard time making a living. Dairy, you name it, protein farmers. They're desperately trying to sell what they have for a fair price, but they're competing with huge ag, these huge corporations that can afford to try to sink these small farmers. And you've heard the stories about people, soybeans and corn, and the companies involved with that. I mean, Monsanto and, predatory types of businesses that, can sue a small farmer and have the legal fees to say, oh, we found our grain on your farmland, and they put them out of business by racking them up legal fees. So I do believe that if we're not careful, we can be kind of forced into a box of eating food that is not good for us or good for the planet. We'll spend, and the prices are going up. Like now, you can literally pay the same amount for garbage at some stores, or you could just get to know a farmer, go to the local farmers market, support somebody local, which is, in my opinion, more sustainable for so many reasons, including the petroleum involved in transporting. Anyway, so.
Yeah, no, it's definitely
local.
a multifaceted reasons for local, not only just for the economic and the just the logistical sides of all of that, and you're not wrong. We've talked about this before too, about you follow money back and you'll find the real problem, and there's a lot of money to be lost by people shopping local and buying local produce. So but from a health benefit standpoint, one of the things we're talking about when we were walking in here, I have this question about bees.
Oh, sure.
Because I'm a big fan of honey. I use it in a lot of my cooking. But also, the question really came up about the difference between buying honey from the store and the little bear that you see, and then honey from the store and the little bear from a farmer or a farm within like a 75-mile radius. So I didn't know if you would talk a little bit more about just like the health benefits that you tend to see, not only because of the lack of pesticides and control, things that we've mentioned already, but also just like eating the things that you're locally around, the impact that can have on your body.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak about that. I think I just think that when you buy a local piece of fruit or a local vegetable or local protein, the healthful benefits, especially for the produce and the fruit, come from the fact that it's picked at the peak of ripeness,
right.
And that is when it is, the most.
It didn't come from a foreign country across several country lines.
Peak of ripeness and the most nutrient dense and better for your body.
Green and let it ripen on the tray.
Right, sure. And a lot of fruits won't do that, but today on Wish TV, I talked about the strawberries and how strawberries make the Dirty Dozen list every year. So I don't know if you know what that is, but it's easy to find on the internet.
For Frank at home, let's talk about Dirty Dozen. What is that?
Well, I can't remember the name of the company that puts it out, but it's very easy to find. You do a search for that, you will find it. But it talks about pesticides and fertilizers and how dirty the foods are that you're eating. And I don't even know exactly why strawberries are on there, because we grow them just fine without pesticides. The only thing we worry about are the rabbits and the squirrels and the birds eating them all. So, we have harvested a cottontail here.
and they talk about
hunting.
They talk about with specifically with the strawberries that they spray so much pesticides on them, you can wash them off.
I've seen that.
Take what's in the bowl and then respray an entire field with it.
And you still have like 10 times more than is a safe amount. I did see a video about that. Now, I can't, a lot of times I'm careful to say things that I've seen on the internet, go figure. But I think there's an argument to be made. If it makes the Dirty Dozen list all the time, and I don't have any pests on my strawberries. None of them are being eaten by bugs, so I don't even understand what that's about. I mean, I haven't done a big field of them, but we've got I'll show you guys. It's right over here.
We
got a lot of strawberries.
We grow them in a gutter.
That's true. That's right.
We put them up in a gutter.
Yeah.
My entire garden is container.
Yeah.
So like we drilled a gutter on the side of the house.
I've seen those. They're cool. That's really cool. It's a good way to do it. Yeah. But have you seen bugs eating your strawberries?
No, never.
I don't even understand. I said this on TV today too. I was like, I don't even understand. They asked me the same question. I'm like, I don't even know why they need pesticides for strawberries. Somebody explain it to me.
I mean, I've got bugs eating mine, but those are the strawberries that are touching the ground, like touching the soil.
Okay, like slugs?
Yeah, so slugs going to get up there. Some beetles or ants are going to get the low.
There are organic ways to deal with those too. I mean, so anyway. But I would always rather have something that I knew. I told the hosts on Wish TV today. I was like, it's Lifestyle Live, by the way, is the show. Nice. So it's actually nationally syndicated.
Nice.
Cool.
Check it out.
So, I was saying that I don't know why they need the chemically driven, but the only thing that's sprayed on mine is rainwater. I don't even water them. I mean, we water some of this stuff here, but I don't water the strawberries ever. So it's like, I don't understand.
Natural foods.
Yeah, I know. So Andy mentioned a little bit, like we're all dabble in the hunting a little bit.
Sure.
And I think for me especially, it's just I want less people touching my food. Like I just, or rather, like I want to know where my food is coming from. Like you mentioned, like with the chickens, like I want to make sure that that chicken had a decent life. I eat a lot of venison. I'm pretty confident that deer had a good life versus, some cow that was just stuck in a barn.
Sure.
But like when you connect with local farmers, like not only do you know where that food's coming from, but like exactly who had their hands in growing it.
100%.
So it's just like you're just meeting your neighbors at that point. And for me, like every time I drive down the road and I see another farm that's being chiseled up for apartments or shopping complexes, like part of my soul just dies a little bit. So the fact that I can meet somebody like you, Jason, and who's like keeping our city green. Like you're like literally giving us air to breathe with your plans and just like keeping the world green a little bit. Like we're not going to be totally industrialized as long as you're here. So.
I'm doing my best, but sometimes I'm tempted to sell everything.
I get it.
Yeah. I can't lie. I mean, it is a labor of love, and I work a lot of hours. I work more than most people that I know personally. I'm a small business owner, and it is.
And a farmer. I mean, they're notoriously like hard workers. So.
Yeah. So I have somebody full time to cover that. His name is Robert. He's an amazing guy, and he's really good. He's here 40 hours a week, and he helps us out a lot. I used to do it all myself, and I was dying.
That's a lot.
So yeah.
On top of everything else.
Yeah. So then if you're doing the private events, the private dinners, and the baking for the farmers markets. I mean, we do hundreds of loaves of bread every week. Like I'm doing.
So I just heard 3 jobs there.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
There's even more.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's a labor of love, to be certain, and when you're sitting on property that you could sell and move somewhere,
It's
somewhere a little more rural, but yeah, I do love it here. I probably won't sell, but thank you for your encouragement. So what I need is everybody to support local.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Well, yeah. Let's talk more about that.
Sure.
So for people here in Indianapolis, obviously we can reach out to you, but yes, we can go to farmers markets, but what's your number one tip for finding a local farmer in your area?
It's literally go to the farmers markets. I mean that. So by going to the farmers markets, you can start on the journey of getting to know your farmers, and getting to know your farmers is the only way you'll ever know what they're doing, because farmers, even at farmers markets, are all of different ilk. They have different qualities. Some of them are organic, some of them are not. Some of them are certified organic, but will say, look, I'm not paying for the certification. The other some are certified, but others are saying, I don't want to pay for the certification, but this is exactly what I do. And they'll let you go visit their farm.
Nice.
So I think the most important thing is to get to know people. And so that's how I did it. I started getting to know the local farmers. It was an event that I did called Barbecue Wars. Did you guys ever hear about that? Or
Yeah,
but
down
I'm
at the
Cheese Wars?
Yeah.
So we did a couple of those, and I was basically, it was kind of my brainchild, and I had some help putting them on. But the idea was that we're using local meat for Barbecue Wars. We're using local cheese for Cheese Wars. And it was to get people's minds open to trying these things, and to get chefs connected with these producers so that they would buy more of these local products. And it was just this thing that was trying to connect the community. And that, for me, that's really what it's about. It's building community and getting to know the people that are actually growing your food, so that you do know the person personally.
Right.
And that's what it's all about.
Well, and I love about that is that's the part that I think people struggle with, especially growing up in the suburbs, which I believe most of us here did. I don't know about you, but we all did. You kind of get brainwashed into well, you get your food at Kroger. That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And even children today grow up thinking that food just comes from a store, nowhere else. And you kind of get brainwashed into that, so it becomes almost scary to try to go maybe get your food anywhere else.
Yeah,
so I guess what are if going to a farmer's market, what are 3 opening questions to talk to your farmer about? Because I think that's the other thing that people it sounds like a silly thing to ask. Well, I would venture to guess a lot of people don't even know, where do I start? What do I ask?
Does organic really matter?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That's a great question to ask the farmer. That's a great question. Does organic matter to you?
Yeah.
And then they'll tell you why. You don't even have to put them on the spot.
Right.
So you don't want to offend anybody, because they're doing what they believe is right, for sure. And no judgment. I'm happy that we have the system that we have, even though I think we need to start tweaking it more and more.
For sure,
asking hard questions is also something you shouldn't be afraid of. And I think a lot of people are just afraid to have the conversation. But if you get to know somebody, you can start supporting them and say, hey, so do you use pesticides? What kinds do you use? I mean, there are organic pesticides.
Oh, yeah.
And so we use some here, believe it or not. So, But the main thing is building that community and starting to go on that voyage. We started this CSA program back in September, and most people don't even know what that means, but it's community supported agriculture. And so I've spent like the last 15 to 20 years just getting to know everybody in town and knowing how everybody farms and deciding, I was going to use this product or that product. And so, for people who can't go to the farmer's market, I still recommend that, number one.
Yeah.
Go meet them yourself, talk to them, buy their products, see if you like it, ask them what they're doing, how they're feeding their animals, how they're taking care of their crops. But, for people that don't have time to do that, I've started this CSA program where we deliver the best local has to offer.
That's awesome.
My organic sourdough, which I've been looking for somebody else locally who does any organic bread. I haven't found any yet. But then we do, I seriously would love to meet them. I want to shake everybody's hand who's doing that.
Yeah. There's two of us.
There's two of us on you're sitting
myself and Colton.
Yeah, you have his microphone currently.
I do sell organic bread every week.
Awesome.
Just so you know. So, but, the CSA package includes a number of products from local farmers, eggs, milk, and then lots of vegetables, depending on what plan you pick. And then animal protein, too, as well. So, anyway, but that was my desire to help people and my desire to continue a sustainable business. I mean, it really was my goal with this.
Right.
I talk about the labor of love, but I want to have a sustainable food business. And, the restaurant industry, completely and totally unsustainable. And if you talk to most chefs, they will agree. I mean, I've got a lot of friends in town, and they all know it. They agree with me. But, how do we get there? How do we start making the steps? And why can't they use what I use? Sometimes there are very good reasons. And, this is, it's about helping the local farmers scale up their production, scale up their ability to provide. And they could meet the demand, I can assure you. But the demand isn't there, so you don't produce too much of something and then end up throwing it away or composting it, or these things do happen. So, anyway,
I love the fact that you're bringing the farmers market to everyone. Let's say you work on the weekends, you can't go to the farmers market. Aren't there a couple here that have like a Wednesday?
There's a Wednesday one. There's Wednesday one right down the street. Yeah. It's market. It's the original one in Indianapolis.
City Market or whatever.
It's literally on the, I'm pretty sure it's on the Circle.
Cool.
It was a couple years ago, and I haven't done that one for a while.
Yeah.
I just don't have.
Just dig around a little bit. You'll find a farmer's market.
There's one on Thursday.
Or you could find a
Bend.
CSA to ship something to your house.
Sure. And depending on what you want, if you just want vegetables from a local farm, do it. If you want more curated items from a guy like me with bread and all that,
super cool.
Yeah, hit me up.
Dude,
we're just trying to
your ramp butter, your morel butter, it's all top notch.
Thank you.
So, coming from a local side of things, when you go to a Whole Foods, or I don't want to name names, but I'm going to name names.
Yeah.
Whole Foods, Fresh Market, you name your even your local like Kroger, there is a local section and a organic section. How does one I guess? What are your thoughts on that? How do farmers get involved with that, or is that, I don't want to say it's good enough, but I like this idea of going to the farmers market is one, the CSA is another option, But if I go to the store and I see this organic or a local section, what does that mean? Is that, what level of good is that? Or can you give somebody more background?
How local is it?
Yeah, what does that local mean versus your local?
Yeah, some of the things that are at those local sections. I mean, I basically don't go to the store anymore. It's kind of awesome.
Right. So you don't even know.
Literally.
He's like,
but
I know
what you're talking. I know what you're talking about. Everything gets delivered here. Or it's growing here.
Right.
Anyway, but I do think that's a good thing. I think that the larger corporations see that there's a demand for it, and they sometimes might just be paying lip service, or you have to be a big enough company to be able to supply them. And I don't know how those deals work, whether or not they only pay you for what sells, or whether they just buy it up front and they pay you pay your wholesale rate. I haven't done that, and I can't speak to that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing overall.
I think it's a good opener of getting into it, because, like you said, I love what you said about that. It's the true cost of that product, whether you're talking about a meat bird, or talking about eggs, or talking about a loaf of sourdough.
Sure.
It's the true price of that, and the tough part is like you said, the more and more people get involved and buy that allows those prices to come down. And there's probably a right sizing of like what someone's going to do. If you want to specialize in being a meat bird provider, there's a right size of your facility.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But right now there's no incentive to do that. It's either keep it so small that you can do it boutique, or you're that guy that's got 10,000 turkeys locked in a barn.
And there's some guys that are doing great work in Indiana. Greg Gunthorpe's one of them. Kyle Becker is another one of them. Guys that I really respect, and you should look into talking to them if you ever want to. But they're they're doing things regeneratively and really trying to raise. These are mainly protein meat farmers. But yeah, I can't remember where I was going with that. But
no, that's just a good example of
the right size.
The right
So,
size.
Good conversation I had with Kyle Becker. I asked him because I'm curious, and people ask me these questions, like how many more meat birds could you do? And he's like, tens of thousands. But it's not about him being able to do that. It's, how much people are willing to buy.
Right.
And there's local restaurants, and I have never been hard on anyone in person, or and I don't like talking trash, and honestly I don't judge, because I think we're all kind of on our own journey,
right? And
I myself have been chipping away at what I consider to be imperfections in my sustainability or regenerative nature, how I want to take care of the planet and be the custodian that I want to be for the planet. But if I go to a restaurant that is selling a chicken leg quarter for $34, a thigh and a leg.
Right.
I want to know where that came from.
Yeah.
Because if it's the exact same quality chicken that you can buy at churches, why would I be paying $34?
Right.
And I know they have bills. I know, but you could spend a little bit more. And my friend Kyle, that I was telling you about, Kyle Becker, veterinarian, farmer, one of my local heroes for sure.
Yes.
He said, it's like 50 cents more per plate if you buy my chicken, or maybe $1 a plate. And then I asked this question: how many people, if you just put on the menu, are you willing to pay an extra $1 so that you can have local pasture-raised chicken, as opposed to, it might be local, but it's also raised in a barn with 100,000 other birds where the air quality stinks, and it's the same thing as the CAFO is what they call it, so concentrated animal feeding operations. So that is a thing, and people need to know about that. And if you're going to have a nice restaurant, you should really spend just a little more on the higher quality bird. And I've seen it at a few restaurants locally, them charging that kind of money for a CAFO, and I'm like, I can't get behind it. It's why. And some of the reasons, honestly, and I get it. Like, some chefs will say, well, I buy those chickens, or I buy those whatever, the breasts or the thighs, and they're not all the same, and they want the industrial portion, so they can say they're all 6 ounces, or you know what I mean. And so I think that is an excuse, and I think that's being stuck in a rut, or just not being willing to flex with truly what is local and sustainable. So if Kyle has small chickens, I'm going to find a way to use those small chickens, like 2-3 pound chickens, or 1 6-pound chicken. I'll figure it out. It's fun. It's a little challenge. So what? Figure out a way to do it. So
So what are some of the other hang-ups with just not wanting to buy local, or like what's stopping that demand?
Most chefs and restaurateurs, and it's not necessarily a chef's fault either. It could be the owner. It could be and most chefs don't own their own restaurants, so they have to cover costs, and it comes down to money most of the time. They can't afford, they see the overhead. They see, and I'm trying to remember the word, but the food cost is extremely important. They want to keep food cost under 20-30%, and they're like, if you're not doing that,
yeah, I'm sure
you're failing.
I'm sure that,
you're
like
failing.
Most businesses, is a recipe to success in the restaurant business, and if they're following that too closely to provide an authentic meal,
right,
then maybe that's it's not their fault necessarily.
Now, is that the same like residentially, like for just the average Joe? Like, is obviously budget is probably top tier.
It's a huge problem, and I understand, and that's why I would never judge anyone. I would never judge a chef. Sometimes I don't know the circumstances they're dealing with, so I can't be mad at them. But I also think that some, if they realize people would pay more for the better product, that they could just add $1 to that dish. It's no longer 34, it's 35, it's 36, and we're using this product.
Yeah.
And education is what's needed. We need to educate the consumers so that they're smart enough to know what they want.
Mhm.
They don't just want the cheapest thing all the time. And we talk about investing in our health, and
Yeah.
you can have too many calories and still be starving yourself of nutrients in this country, and a lot of people are. Look at the epidemic of I would call them diseases of opulence. Literally, you're eating your snack foods to make yourself obese and become diabetic, or type 2 diabetic by the time you're 50. People ask me all the time, what are your secrets for health? I mean, I'm 52, and people they're like, "Oh, you're 52."
You don't look 52. For those
No,
of you who are
that's
not,
kinda what I
if
get.
you're not watching this man looks like he's maybe 35.
It's very kind. I don't mind hearing that. Flattery will get you. No, but the point is, like, all I can tell you is, I mean, I drink coffee, I drink wine. I'm not some sort of purist, but I don't eat. I barely eat processed foods. Like, it's so rare. Like, it's got to be the middle of the night and I'm starving to death. And, I've been known to stop at a fast food restaurant if I'm really hungry or, just craving it. I mean, I'm not going to say that I never do it, but I would say right now, at this time of my life, I mean, I had pizza a few weeks ago. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing I can think of.
Well, that's awesome that you just had to stop and think about it.
Like,
Yeah.
no,
I
like,
mean,
yeah.
impressive for sure.
Yesterday for me. So.
Sure. Yeah. No. And I love pizza. And everybody loves these comfort foods. But but how do we address
about
that
having
for our personal health?
Right, and having the right relationship with what that food is and what it should be used for. Where unfortunately, we talked about that in episodes in the past about we do have food deserts. We have situations where people they don't have the same access to certain things, so that becomes the okay thing. And unfortunately, that goes through a couple of generations, and now it's just normal that we eat McDonald's on Thursdays, or we eat fast food on Tuesdays. And that's because that's out of a necessity for their environment, but also I think you said it earlier. It goes back to education.
Yeah.
And if you make it a point, make it a priority, and that's where those changes begin.
I think that's the
parenting
key.
is-
It's got to be a priority.
Right.
You can spend a few $100 extra on groceries now by having a really high quality, locally sourced foods, or you can spend thousands of dollars later on medical bills.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Okay.
And you guys know I'm on a journey right now.
Correct.
With my own gut thing that's going on, spending 6 to 7 hours a night in a bathtub just to keep the pain away.
Right.
But I'm approaching whether people like it or not, I am about to begin a carnivore experience to see what the benefits are for me, for what I'm dealing with, and the gut journey that I'm on. And so everyone's going to have their own journey
For sure.
with that and their own connection to it, or they're never going to buy into it.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I highly recommend you try that for 30 days and see what happens. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you? How's that going to hurt you?
I've been feeling this way for 9 months. What's
Yeah.
30 more days going to hurt?
Yeah. You're not going to die from trying that.
All right.
So, and I am a big proponent of animal protein, and I think it's a huge thing. I wanted to touch on the access thing and the freedom thing again, because you brought something up that really hit me right in the feels. Some people ask, at the private dinners, somebody recently asked, and other people have signed up for the CSA, they're like, well, I kind of feel guilty about the access that they have, like if they can afford to get the farmers market stuff and other people can't. And my answer to that is, if you can, you definitely should, because you're going to help these smaller farmers scale up. So if you're the type of person that makes enough money and you feel called to do it, I really believe that you should. And I'm not telling you to sign up for my CSA. If I can serve people and provide a product that they're happy with, then I will be happy. I don't want anybody to sign up and be unhappy. But the idea, touching back to the very beginning of what freedom is, the idea that we need to be free to choose these foods, those of us who can support these local farmers had better, or they won't be there.
Right.
And then you will literally have to go to the grocery store and buy whatever is provided to you.
Yeah.
And you will be hungry, so you will do it. You'll take the protein pill or whatever it is.
Right.
But yeah, the Joel Salatin, another super famous hero of mine, and he's very well known for Polyface Farms, and so I don't know if you guys know his name, and it's totally cool if you don't. But he pointed out that before the 1940s, and this is not like something he invented, but he said it, and I was like, it blew me away, because he's another huge hero of mine. He said that before the 40s, there were no grocery stores. So think about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Think about not being able to go to the grocery store, and so his question was, where is all the food? And he's got this great manner of talking. I love the way he talks.
Right.
But where was all the food? And he's like, it was in people's homes. And you have a root cellar. You keep your beets, your carrots, your celeriac, your potatoes in a root cellar. And the helicopters are. I told you.
Back.
Do you want me to pause, or should we keep it in here?
I honestly, I love it.
I
think
like
it's very authentic.
Yeah.
We are like legitimately downtown, on a farm.
They're often going to the hospital, so they go overhead, not too infrequently. But it was in people's homes, so you had a root cellar, and you might have had chickens in your backyard. I think all of our grandmothers, if not our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, knew how to harvest a chicken. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
do the spin method or the quick slip method, and they ate fresh chicken. And when you start eating your own chicken that you raise, you're going to feed it well. You're going to make sure it has fresh water. Yes. And when you're getting your eggs from your chickens every day, we got 21 eggs yesterday from these ladies back behind me. And I'm eating those eggs.
I was waiting for one to come on camera. Like I want
we need some treats, because the three that are running around, they'll come up right up to me. Yeah. Earlier today, one was just sitting there looking at me, like just. Oh, they're right there. See, they do. They feel safer.
Oh, there's a little cottontail over there too.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat him. I might eat the chickens too, but
get out of the strawberry.
definitely eating the chicken. Yeah, seriously.
I should tell my daughter not to. Don't listen to this episode, Addie. Gus is good. we have a rabbit at home.
Yeah,
he's fine.
Yeah, I literally made confit of rabbit leg.
Yeah,
and then made a stew out of the rest of it. And I, harvested the back straps and everything. I mean, it was incredible, and it's just right here. But it's eating my stuff. I knew it was fed well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You've been feeding it.
But yeah, I don't know if I finished my point. But the idea is that if we can support it, we really should.
Right.
We really should, and pave the way for other people by helping it become the norm.
Yeah.
If you can make it become the norm, then everybody will have more access to it. And there's local programs working with. WIC, and I think that's the name of the. Is that the name of it?
I think they changed it, but I'm tracking with you. I think they changed the name.
But they give out
Hoosier Health Wise or
for
something
sure.
like that.
Yeah, and they give out bucks for the farmers market, and I'm like, what could be better than that? I mean, that's tax dollars I'm happy to have spent.
Absolutely.
It's something I'm
sure.
all behind you using my tax dollars for that.
I think it's important to realize, like we've mentioned multiple times, we're right here downtown Indianapolis. And I grew up here, so I love that this is right here. You don't have to have a lot of space.
No.
So just in your 2/3 of acre, what would you say in a year that you're producing?
Well, it varies. I'm trying to keep track of everything that we grow. Like I'm taking notes on how many pounds of asparagus we get, how many pounds of strawberries, and from a little patch of strawberries, I think we got 35 pounds last year.
Jeez.
So and we. Because I'm a chef, and I can process a lot of this stuff. Excuse me. Turn it into jams and jellies and sorbets and all that stuff. And the private dinners, I mean, truly, it's an unfair advantage. And I tell people all the time, like, people come and they love the food. And I say, well, I guess I was somewhat classically trained, and I'm a total food geek, so I've watched everything and learned as much as I can about everything. But the unfair advantage is that I start with the best ingredients. And the rule is to start with the best ingredients and then don't fuck them up.
There we go. There it is.
So I said don't mess them up on television today. but yeah, I was like had to be really careful. I was like, don't. Literally said it. But
and that you're producing that much. Look, he's going to get in trouble. That rabbit is done. We're going to see him on his Instagram tomorrow.
I did not bring the bow.
In the evening, I have a little air rifle.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm not even sure that's legal, but
it is.
I think it is.
I have one as well.
I got a 2.7.
Chris has gotten a couple of squirrels out of me.
Yeah,
out of my.
But but even of those people that cannot get to the farmer's market or
Sure.
have access to that. Even getting started with a small garden
Sure.
can produce. I mean, we have 10 containers, and then I think 5-gallon buckets
Sure.
for watermelons
Yep.
and cantaloupes last year.
Yep.
And we didn't go to the grocery store the entire summer or fall, and the amount of money that saved, because it doesn't take a lot to get started. If you can get some good seeds, and maybe that's your intro to the farmers too, is getting, if you can, see if they'd be willing to share some seed with you. And I've seen several events here locally in Indy. I
Seed
know we had
swaps.
one in
Yes.
McCordsville recently, a seed swap. And that's such a great opportunity. One, to meet other people that are doing what you're doing and to gain knowledge from them and to learn from them. But two, it's then now you can be calculating what you're growing. So if you're going to grow carrots and you live down the street, I'm not going to grow carrots.
Right.
I'm going to grow lettuce, and we can swap.
Right.
And so, because eventually, I believe down the line that's going to come back, and that's going to be something that we're going to have to rely on.
It may or may not, and I wouldn't disagree with the idea at all, and I would love it if it did. So that's my opinion on it. I mean,
absolutely.
I would love it if that happened.
We talk about, I'm fortunate enough, I have your kid's gone, but I have the other three. I have the oldest kids, and my kids are getting out there with me. We're hunting morels. They're hunting. My oldest daughter was hunting this year with me for her first season, and it's just connecting them back. We don't go on all the vacations. We don't have all the most money where we go and do all these amazing things, but my kids know how to clean animals. They know how to forage, and they know how to protect themselves.
Sure.
And so they're getting closer and closer to what it means to have, if something like that were to happen, my kids are going to be successful, and they're going to be able to survive through something like that. Call me whatever you want to call me, something like that. But I like to believe that I'm raising daughters that's going to be a blessing to this earth and bring more things to it than they're taking away from it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we have to ask ourselves, why this stuff doesn't show up in the local education.
Seriously, yeah.
Because self-sufficiency and where your food comes from and a connection with nature, in my opinion, are primary. It's the first thing you should learn. And how to be a good person, that's great. Parents can do that. But in the public education system, why is nobody taught to grow a tomato? And that's a very good question. There's a lot of theories about that.
Yeah.
Ooh, geez, yeah. we're trying to avoid politics. So.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah.
No, but so about I'm just looking at Chris's notes here too about the CSA. I want to know a little bit more about how far is the reach, how far does it ship, how do you get involved, that sort of thing.
Sure. We don't actually ship, but we deliver.
Okay. So local delivery.
And so we don't ship anywhere at this point, and I'm not sure how that. I'm going to have to do research and figure out if that's part of my business model or not. But the delivery, I think that's viable, and we're connecting people with their food and all that. So I feel really good about that. But the CSA, we have one customer in Kokomo.
Okay.
Yes.
And we've got a number in Fishers. We've got a bunch downtown. Carmel. So it's I would say more on the north side, but that probably is because of where our farmers markets are. So we do Broad Ripple and Carmel, so a lot of people learn about us there, and then they're like, well, especially in the winter, what a great time, because most people don't go to the farmers markets in the winter.
Seriously.
That's why I started it in September of last year, because I was like, the farmers markets absolutely stink, and it's not the people that run it. It's not their fault.
Right.
I love the people that run the farmers markets, but the people are just not willing to come out in the cold, and I get it. I get it. Let me deliver it to you. So
That's awesome. That's beautiful.
So and it actually really helped over the winter just to have that going on and moving.
Well, there's not a lot. I think Westfield has a winter market. McCordsville is launching a winter market this winter.
Cool.
But outside of that, I don't know of any that are really going.
Well, both Carmel and Broad Ripple go year round.
Okay.
So they have indoor markets, and
Indoor.
it's been wonderful.
Awesome.
I'll be honest, I don't know if I even realized that.
Sure.
I didn't know.
Right.
I know I did.
Farmers market. Yeah.
I think
know
a
I
lot of
did.
people don't, and that's part of the problem. So here we are.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect.
So to everyone listening, look up winter farmers markets
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
And they do have produce.
Support
believe
your
it or
farmers
not.
year round.
Yeah. My friend Jim with Freedom Valley, He's another local hero of mine. Hey, Jim. Yeah, he supplied us with some of the most incredible carrots all winter long. Yeah. And then, of course, you got squash and potatoes. And, I got a bunch of stuff from Michael Hicks, and he runs Living Roots Farm. He's down in Bloomington. I got a ton of great potatoes from him. I got a bunch of stuff from everybody. So if I don't have pounds and pounds of stuff that I need to ship out, I contact these people. Farming Engineers also. They're a fantastic certified organic farm, and I get a lot of great stuff from them. Got celery last year. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. And Becker Farms is a huge thing for our CSA. Sick. But we just, and Twilight Dairy, raw milk cheese. Oh my gosh, the cheese is incredible. We're just sending out local milk. But anyway, the network starts like that. So
that's huge. Awesome. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're kind of running out of time.
Sure. I get it. Yeah.
Dude, I could just talk for hours. I could just listen to you talk about this stuff for hours and hours. So, people want more. Like, where can they find you? Like, we know you're on Instagram, Jason Michael Thomas.
Sure.
Your website?
The website has a little magnifying glass up in the upper right-hand corner or maybe left-hand corner. If you type in CSA, you can learn about the CSA programs. Yeah. There's 3 different levels of membership. We do customize. So we have vegan customers. We have, people that can't have bread and will substitute things, and we make it work. So anybody who quits and says they weren't getting what they want, they haven't talked to me, and that's their fault. Yeah. But everybody that talks to me is really happy, and they get, I'm willing to spoil people. I really want to. I want them to feel like they're getting what they need and that they're not paying too much. I want to be right in the pocket. But, I charge, farmers market prices with a little delivery. I mean, that's what I got to charge.
Absolutely.
I got to. Yeah. But, so my website is a great place to go to research that.
And is that your name as well?
Yeah.
We'll link it in the stats.
Yeah, we'll put it in the notes.
JasonMichaelThomas.com. And Facebook, you can find me, Jason Michael Thomas, but there's my personal page has a lot more traction than the professional one, but find my personal page.
Yeah.
And then we also do TikTok.
There you go.
Yeah, trying to see what happens there.
Well, absolutely. Even if you're not local to Indianapolis, definitely look up the Instagram, Jason Michael Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely.
The amount of information is unbelievable. So
thank you.
Just you'll find a way to incorporate that into your own garden if you've got something. Definitely, you'll have all the topics you'll need to reach out to your local farmers, your farmers markets and whatnot. And it's stuff we need to be thinking about.
Yeah,
for sure.
Just keep it local.
Yeah, and I want people to know I really want to be a resource.
Yeah.
So send me a message on Instagram or Facebook, because then we start building the community that I'm talking about. And it's I want to help people find where can I get this or where can I get that? And I already know where to get it. So you can ask me, and I'll probably know the majority about how they grow and whatever. So, but anyway, please reach out to me, folks.
Absolutely, we will send them straight your way. So we'd like to close every episode with a recipe, and you mentioned you might be willing to share your local.
Yeah.
It's not technically caviar, right? Right. There's some lingo there.
I don't know.
The word different.
I called it caviar. So
you're a chef. You're allowed.
Is it not champagne?
Caviar.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I want to follow.
People make caviar out of. People make caviar out of okra seeds. People make caviar out of all kinds of things. So I don't know. It is a fish egg. It's roe. How do you say the word skein? Is it skein? S-K-E-I-N? The sack of eggs. The sack of eggs inside.
Okayest.
It's either skein or the skein. I don't even know how to say it. I've only read it. I've never
I'm sure
talked to somebody.
There's someone listening that's judging us right now.
They're gonna send us a message.
Sure,
They'll tell us how to say it. But yeah, the recipe. It is actually one of the profile pictures or the background picture on my Facebook page.
Okay.
And I believe the picture's in my fine dining little highlights in my Instagram. But it was a soft scrambled egg, real custardy and loose, and that was served in the shell. So you get a little, you get an egg topper, you pull the top off, and then you put the shells in the oven so they're sanitized. They're germ free. You put them in the oven at a low temp and let them cook a little bit. You make your scrambled eggs and you salt them heavily, and you use a lot of good butter and make it nice and smooth. I don't use any water or cream. And then the fish eggs I had gotten from a very good friend of mine who fishes up in northern Indiana, and basically he sent me a couple of those sacks with roe, and if you open those up and gently coax the eggs out and take your time to separate them. Just kind of rolling them around. I used beet juice and kombucha vinegar, and I've basically cured them, a decent amount of salt as well. I didn't make them super salty, but I wasn't going to keep them for a really long time either. But there's the fermentation that goes along with these things, if you add the right amount of salt, they get firm. So that you don't want them too hard, though. You want to be able to bite into them. Yeah. So I just did my own research and made my own local walleye caviar. Yes. That was this beautiful pink red color, and that dish. I mean, I've only made it a few times because I can't get access to that all the time. I don't have. Where do you buy that? Right. So, but I served it at a private dinner for New Year's Eve. And it definitely was one of those dishes people are like, oh my God. And I ate it. I was like,
dude, just the photo.
Yeah.
Had to be drooling.
Yeah, thank you.
Just like picturing that flavor combination, that texture combination. Sounded awesome.
Yeah, for me, if I can just take one more minute, I get really angry because of what we've done to our lakes and streams. And, I posted recently, there's a picture of me as like a 3-year-old with my fishing rod and a tackle box, maybe 4 at the most. And I've been fishing with my family. We kind of grew up on boats and, fishing quite a bit. And I still remember making little bluegill steaks and all that stuff as a very young lad. And so it's always been but for me, it's the idea that I can't fish out of the White River or any of the local streams, or you're not even supposed to eat fish from Lake Michigan more than once a month.
That's crazy.
That's what we've done. So when people tell me that the status quo is okay, I say, well, then let's go down to the White River.
Watch you eat 2 fish.
We're going to go swimming. I'm going to go swimming first. And we're going to cast some lines, and I'll make you, 7, 10 courses, whatever you want, out of the fish that we catch. And everybody gets real quiet.
They're not into it.
Every time I say that, everybody gets real quiet, and they're like, yeah, maybe we need to do something about it. Maybe we do need to change our ways just a little bit. So that's, just fuel for the fire. I just hope that people are listening and they want to connect with nature and be a custodian to our planet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And to our own bodies at the same time. What do you know?
Absolutely.
It's like the byproduct from it.
What do you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jason, again, there's infinite amount of topics.
Sure.
I really appreciate your time. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. We'll definitely have people reach out if they've got questions
please.
about all the things.
Yeah.
And we need to hook you up with there's an Okayest Fisher podcast as well.
Oh, cool.
I'm sure they would love to talk about local rivers and
that's
whatnot.
awesome.
So,
probably even send some fish your way, I'm sure.
Yes, if you've got some.
That would be the okayest.
If you've got some fish skines laying around.
Oh my gosh,
talk to Jason.
I would love that. Yeah. So.
Yes. Again, thank you so much for your time. Yeah. This is our commitment to eating local. And again, if you've made it this far in the podcast, please eat local.
Yeah.
Find your farmers, support them, and they will support you.
Sure.
So.
I'm gonna do a call to action real quick.
Do it.
If you're listening to this, you're following our social media channels. Tag your favorite local farmer.
Yeah.
Or farmer's market. If you don't have like an actual farmer there.
Yeah,
what's your farmer's market?
Somebody you're close to that has, that's your connection to the local produce. Tag them in our social media so that we can check in on them as well, especially in the Indianapolis area here. Can reach some of our listeners here.
Yeah. Find us everywhere at the Okayest Cook. Search it. We'll be there.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate you listening. Yeah.
Huge
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.